All right, we're sitting down with Ryan Fowler of Fox Sports. Ryan, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, and you are the fantasy football guru, so we're going to ask you a few questions. The regular season starts in less than a month. It's hard to believe, and there are people that are already looking at drafting their teams. It's early, but for those people that are drafting early, let's give them some tips and make it a little easier for them. So first off, what's the biggest mistake they can make at this point?
Drafting this early. I think when you look at draft strategy, when you're dealing with early August drafts, I mean, sure, you can get some good value on some guys whose draft stock's going to kind of get boosted up there over the next month, but you're also going to deal with a lot of depth chart changes, a lot of injuries, and then, as we learned with Levy and Bell recently, suspensions. And I think sometimes it's hard to come back from that, drafting so early and then dealing with all those factors. That being said, I mean, like I mentioned, there is some value. I think they're in New England. I think with Martellus Bennett and Gronkowski coexisting with Jimmy G there for a little bit, maybe Martellus Bennett becomes a value play, because I've seen some whispers now, and I don't want to go overboard on it, but Rob Gronkowski has always been a first-round staple. And now people are getting a little nervous because there are a lot better receivers that you can take in the first round, and because of Martellus Bennett's presence there. I mean, Scott Chandler got 4 touchdowns there last year. Martellus Bennett is a much better tight end than Scott Chandler. So there is some interesting scenarios that are going to play out over the next month, and that's what some people are deterred from drafting in early August.
Okay, so going off of this, are there 3 names that you would pick that are sure bets for the season that they can be pretty safe picking at this point?
Yes, I'm going to go with Antonio Brown. I think he's a PPR machine, points per reception machine. And even in standard leagues, I think Antonio Brown is going to be a safe play. When you say safe plays, I don't think any running back is a safe play these days in fantasy football. I think a lot of people are nervous to go down that road, and you see the consistent production of Antonio Brown, Julio Jones. I think that's a lock. Him and Matt Ryan do a lot of great things in fantasy football year in and year out. And as long as Julio stays healthy, sometimes that hamstring comes up and bites him. I think Julio Jones is a great play. And then it gets interesting. I'm going to say Odell Beckham. I think that's a sure thing right now. If not for the yardage, the touchdown scored, I think, again, one-handed grabs. They're highlight reel material, and they also help you out in fantasy football.
Okay, so these people, how much can they see what's going on in training camp, what they hear from the media, and use that to translate to their fantasy roster?
That's a great question. You know, I think it goes down to the beat writers and paying attention to their Twitter feeds. When you look at those beat writers, there was a great report about a month ago. Down in Atlanta, you have Devonta Freeman, a top-tier running back for this year. There was a report that came out that said that the running back coach and the offensive guru down there, they want to split carries with Freeman and Tevin Coleman. And then you go back and you look at Tevin Coleman's game logs from last year. Tevin Coleman had some good games. So there is value in following the beat writers on Twitter, and then what we do is we kind of extrapolate some of that information in our analysis at foxsports.com. So there is value in beat writers, but I would not be on hanging on the edge of my chair every time a report comes out.
Okay, this is all good stuff. Where can we find more for you during the season and hear more about what picks to make?
Sure, I'm on Twitter at Fox Sports Fowler, and then we have a fantasy football page on Facebook, Fox Sports Fantasy. And then for all your fantasy football draft needs, foxsports.com/fantasy. And then we have a draft guide up there, mock drafts, chats, all that good stuff. And really excited to be partnering with NESN this year on some of these video podcasts.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it all season long, so you can catch it here. So sitting here with John Halpin of Fox Sports. John, thanks for joining us.
Anytime, Rachel. How you doing?
Good. We're here to talk fantasy football, something you know a little bit about, and we're focusing on the early drafters, the people that have leagues, and they're already looking to pick their teams. What's the biggest mistake they can make at this point?
You always have to watch for injuries in training camp, but don't get caught up too much in coach speak. You know, this guy's in the best shape of his life, or things like that. You don't want, if some rookie is doing fantastic in training camp, well, you always have to look back. Where was he drafted? Who's on the depth chart? Things like that.
Are there any rookies you think are sure picks this year?
Well, Ezekiel Elliott is the obvious one. He is a first round running back, if you like picking running backs in your first round. After that, you're going to dig a little deeper for some sleepers. I got one, not a sleeper really, because he's getting more popular, but Sterling Shepard from the Giants. He's in a very high-powered, fast-paced offense. He comes into the league with a reputation as a really good route runner, good hands, all that stuff. He's the type of guy who's going to step in right away and contribute. And in that offense, he could catch 65 passes or so, which could make him the best rookie fantasy wide receiver, even though there were a handful of them picked ahead of him.
Okay, so are there any guys that look great on paper at this point, but that you would steer away from?
Oh boy, Adrian Peterson.
Okay.
And it sounds strange for a guy who was the league's leading rusher last year, but as much of maybe an all-time type of talent as he could be, he's 31 years old. and he's got over 2,500 carries in his career. At some point, that's going to catch up. He's not a guy I'd be taking in the first round, and that's where you're going to have to take him if you want him.
Okay, a lot of people have different strategies, where to pick the running backs, where to pick the wide receivers, the tight ends. Personally, what's your strategy for success?
I'm into the wide receiver early camp right now. I don't trust running backs. They get hurt too often. The bust rate is a little higher than the wide receivers. I'm happy to go wide receivers early because I think once you get into the middle rounds, you can find competent running backs that you're going to be able to get by with.
Okay, John, we'll be talking to you all season about this, but in the meantime, where can people go to find some info from you and learn more?
Well, you can find a lot of my stuff at foxsports.com/fantasy, and you can always catch me on Twitter at jhalpin37. I'm always ready to answer questions.